Hi, I'm Mark, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Microsoft Surface Book with Performance Base. 6 months later, is it still worth it? And how does it compare to the Microsoft Surface laptop? So first of all, why did I buy a Microsoft Surface Book? Well, I desperately needed to upgrade from my MacBook Air, which was from 2013, and the 2016 MacBook Pro just wasn't swinging it for me. I needed a laptop that I could use on the go, mainly for use with Photoshop, web design, and video editing for when I'm traveling. I do a little bit of graphic design occasionally, so the whole pen and tablet concept really appealed to me too. But before we get into the 6 months later part, let's take a quick overview of the Microsoft Surface Book with Performance Base. I'm sure you all know the unique selling point of the Microsoft Surface Book. It's both a laptop and a tablet. You simply detach the clipboard from the performance dock, or the screen from the keyboard if you don't speak Microsoft, and you're in tablet mode. The clipboard is a little bit large to be used as a conventional tablet held in one hand and operated with the other, but it's perfectly fine resting on your lap or at a table, for example. Most of the guts are actually in the clipboard part of the Surface Book, meaning you won't lose significant performance when you detach, though you will sadly lose a lot of longevity in battery life when doing so. The performance dock contains an additional battery and a discrete GPU, which is automatically used when docked. Because of this, it does however make the performance dock slightly thicker than previous models of the Surface Book. The Surface Book has a mini display port, a full-size SD card reader, and 2 USB 3 ports, which is apparently something that's to be celebrated these days. The Surface Book's 13.5-inch screen runs a 3:2 aspect ratio at 3000 by 2000 resolution. Think of 3:2 as having more pixels at the top and bottom of the screen, where traditional PC laptops would normally have plastic bezels. Whilst this may result in black bars during video playback, in software like Adobe Photoshop or when video editing, for example, the extra space is a godsend. The keyboard is backlit, great to type on, and extremely quiet too. The glass trackpad is superb and super responsive, responding to multiple finger touches in a way that I'm familiar with from my old MacBook. The 3-finger tap to Alt-Tab, for example, is a nice touch, if you'll excuse upon. It of course comes with the Surface Pen, which neatly attaches itself to the side of the screen via a magnetic strip. It attaches itself pretty securely, but I wouldn't overly recommend transporting the Surface Book and pen like this if you still expect the pen to be there when you next open your laptop case. Finally, if you're familiar with Apple's MagSafe chargers, the Surface Book's charger is an extremely similar concept. But the build quality of the Surface Book charger isn't nearly as impressive, and it's certainly a lot easier to pull out by accident compared to Apple's charger. Also, the LED light on the charger doesn't even change colour to let you know it's fully charged, remaining permanently white even when the device is done. However, the charger does also have a USB port if you need to charge an additional device, which comes in extremely handy when you're on the go. So, 6 months later, was it worth it? Or should you look at the Microsoft Surface laptop? Or maybe go crawling back to Apple? First of all, the build quality is equally as superb as my old MacBook Air, and the Surface Book somehow manages to look even more futuristic and modern. I have to say though, I do strangely miss the glowing apple on the lid of my MacBook, as the Windows logo on the lid is just a shiny logo and doesn't light up or anything. But I'd say that everything else aesthetically is a vast improvement. No longer do I have to associate a Windows-based laptop with a cheap and cheerful build quality, something which actually turned me to Apple in the first place. Whilst promising 16 hours of battery life, I only managed to get about 5 or 6 hours initially, upping that to around 7 to 8 hours when turning off things like key backlighting, lowering screen brightness, and laying off the multitasking. However, detaching the clipboard is a surefire way to kill your battery as fast as possible, so I wouldn't recommend doing so when charging isn't readily available. Initially, I've got to be honest, the fulcrum hinge gap kind of bugged me just to look at. It looks super futuristic and all, but I just couldn't help but think, would the hinge gap be a legitimate design choice if they weren't forced to have one? I doubt it. Yet after the first time, I actually tried attaching the clipboard in reverse for sketching with the Surface Pen. I immediately changed my mind. The gap makes the perfect angle for sketching, and it feels so comfortable and natural to use. And funnily enough, now that I know that the hinge gap has more of a purpose, I now really don't mind it at all. Speaking about design choices that may not have been choices at all, can we please talk about the headphone jack? I honestly don't think you could find a worse place for a headphone jack. As all the guts are in the clipboard, it makes sense that the jack had to be there, but did it really have to be there? I'd recommend getting longer headphones as it becomes extremely distracting seeing the cord of your headphones constantly out of the corner of your eye. Sadly, some of my old software was impossible to use on the Surface Book, and in case you didn't know, old software designed for 72 pixel per inch displays do not scale well on the Surface Book's high DPI display. This results in text that's impossible to read and therefore software that's impossible to use. I had this issue with old versions of Photoshop and Sony Vegas that I've been clinging to for years, leaving me no choice but to bite the bullet and shell out for newer versions. I've read about registry fixes that may resolve this issue, but it seems a little bit strange that Microsoft didn't implement high DPI scaling for older software like Apple does. This is how I can best sum up the Surface Book. The fact that the screen can be detached is great if you actually do so on a regular basis to justify the associated design costs of being able to do so. But if you don't, bear in mind that having that versatility and not using it means a whole lot of other consequences. First of all, it means that the Surface Book has to be heavier. Compared to laptops of the same weight, the Surface Book is undeniably less powerful than all of them. It also means that the headphone jack is in a weird place. It means you have a gap when the device is closed, for example. Last but not least, it means a higher overall price compared to machines of similar power. So if you're really not going to use the whole detaching feature, you may want to weigh up your other options before you commit. Sacrificing that versatility will save you a lot of money or buy you a lot more power. But sadly, you'll struggle to find build quality like this anywhere else on a Windows laptop. But wait, I hear you ask, what about the newly announced Microsoft Surface laptop? After all, it also has a touchscreen, 3:2 aspect ratio, and great build quality. Yet, even if you rarely detach the clipboard on the Surface Book, the Surface laptop just isn't worth it for me. The Surface laptop runs on Windows 10s, which restricts you from downloading programs outside of the Windows App Store, which is a real big deal for me. Plus, when you opt for the higher end i7 Surface laptop, you're basically paying the same amount as the Surface Book for a lot less versatility. And as a lot of people have pointed out, it doesn't even have USB-C ports either. But if you are an avid user of the pen and the clipboard, you love the build quality, and you're just generally a fan of what Microsoft are trying to do with the Surface Book, then it will be, just like it is for me, a best friend for everything. So that's it for my review of the Microsoft Surface Book. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it or if it helps you. It is honestly one of my favorite pieces of technology in the last 10 years. I love the versatility of it, and it just gives me everything that I loved about Apple, but with Windows. Please leave me a comment below if you've got any questions. As someone who's owned and used the Surface Book for 6 months, I would happily get back to you about anything that you would like to know. Or perhaps maybe you've got the Surface Book, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section as well. Please consider subscribing to this channel if you're brave enough, and thank you so much to all of the 50 subscribers who have appeared seemingly out of nowhere. You've really made my day. I hope you enjoyed this one. There's tons more to come, so stick with me, guys. And until the next review, Mark, over and out.